Go ahead. Judge me if you want. But tell me first, since when does one night of flirting make a woman evil? I was not planning to destroy my marriage. I was trying to remember what it felt like to be wanted without asking for it. My husband kept checking his phone with that tired, serious face, like my happiness was another problem he had to manage. So yes, I told him to go home. I deserved one night where nobody treated my freedom like a crime. I am Harper Lane, 32, a social media campaign manager, and I know the difference between betrayal and a vibe. It was just a vibe, at least at first, and I deserved one night where being married did not make me feel like I had been placed on a shelf. My husband Evan always called that kind of thinking dangerous because he was too serious about everything that made me feel alive. He kept checking his phone that night, then turning it face down, like even my happiness had to be reviewed in silence. I was not trying to destroy my marriage. I was trying to remember what it felt like when someone chose me without already being required to. Evan and I had been together 7 years and married 4, and people love to say that like time itself is proof that something is still breathing. It is not. Time can also become a room where nobody opens a window. We had good things once. We used to go on late-night grocery trips and turn them into dates, buying cheap snacks we did not need and eating them in the parking lot like we were 19. Once, when my laptop crashed the night before a major campaign presentation, Evan stayed awake until sunrise helping me rebuild the deck, slide by slide. He was good that way, reliable, useful, quiet in a way that made panic smaller. But reliable can become invisible when it never reaches for you first. That was the part nobody wanted to hear from me. My mother used to say marriage was the place where women disappeared, and when I was younger I thought she was bitter. Then I became the wife standing beside a man who loved me through calendar reminders, insurance renewals, and asking if I had eaten while other women were being touched on the waist in photos and told they looked unforgettable. The cocktail lounge that night had amber lights, round tables, and music loud enough to make ordinary sentences feel more exciting. We were there after a work event with Tessa, Maya, Logan, and a few people from my campaign circle. Evan came because I asked him to, but he already looked like he was counting the minutes until we could leave. He wore the grey jacket I liked, though he had not noticed that I had changed dresses twice before picking the black one. Tessa noticed. Of course she noticed. She leaned close and said the dress was dangerous in the best way, and I smiled because that was the kind of sentence a woman keeps when her husband has only said the rideshare was cheaper if we left before midnight. Adrian Voss was across the bar when I first saw him, tall, relaxed, amused by the room without trying too hard. He was talking to someone near the glass shelves, but his eyes moved to me twice, then stayed. I twisted my wedding ring around my finger, not because I felt guilty, but because the band had started to feel tight under the warm air and the noise. It was just a vibe, a look, a little spark, the kind of thing that reminds a woman she can still enter a room and change the temperature. Adrian came over after Tessa waved him into our group, because Tessa always knew when a night needed a little trouble. He complimented my dress in a way that made it sound like he had noticed me before he noticed the fabric. Evan heard it. He did not step closer. He did not put an arm around me. He checked his phone, turned the screen face down, and stared at the table like he was waiting for the mood to correct itself. I read that as sulking. Maybe it was. He asked softly if I wanted to leave soon because I looked tired. That was Evan's gift, taking a bright room and wrapping it in concern until it felt like a warning. I told him I was not tired, and he said he was only asking. I told him he was always only asking, and somehow the question still made everything smaller. Tessa laughed under her breath, not cruelly, just enough to let me know she understood me. Maya glanced at Evan, then at me, and looked away. Logan started talking about ordering another round because men like Logan hated tension unless it came with sports. Adrian bought that round before anyone else moved. He asked what I did, and when I explained campaigns, audience hooks, and how people only believe the version you package cleanly, he said I must be dangerous with a phone. I said only when people gave me boring material. Evan heard that too. His mouth tightened, but he stayed calm. Too serious. Like the whole night was a file he had already decided to close. I told myself that if he wanted to be part of my life, he needed to stop standing beside me like a tired supervisor. A husband should not make his wife feel guilty for being seen. A husband should not act like every laugh from another man is a threat. When Adrian leaned closer to hear me over the music, I did not move away. I wanted Evan to see that the room still wanted something from me. Not because I wanted to hurt him, because I wanted him to wake up. Later, when Evan asked if I wanted to get some air, I said I wanted to stay where the night was finally becoming fun. He looked at his phone again, face down again. I thought he was trying to punish me with silence, so I turned back toward Adrian and let the music cover the space my husband left between us. That was the first time that night I chose the room over him, and I told myself it was freedom. Tessa's apartment smelled like vanilla body spray, hair heat, and cheap champagne, which was exactly the kind of place where bad ideas felt like self-care. She had invited me over before the nightclub because, according to her, I needed to stop arriving everywhere like somebody's wife and start arriving like myself. I liked that. It sounded clean. It sounded brave. It sounded better than admitting I had spent half the week wondering whether Adrian would be there. I did not tell Evan that part. Of course, I told myself it was not a lie. It was just a missing detail. And missing details kept men from turning every plan into an interrogation. Evan knew we were going out with Tessa, Maya, Logan, and a few people from my campaign circle. That was enough. He did not need the guest list like some tired security guard. Tessa sat on her bathroom counter while I fixed my eyeliner, telling me that married women were allowed to enjoy attention. She said Evan only looked uncomfortable because he liked me better when I was easy to manage. That line slipped right into the sore place inside me. Easy to manage. That was exactly how Evan loved me best. Calm, available, ready to leave when he got tired, ready to smile when he wanted the room to stop asking questions. I told Tessa it was just a vibe with Adrian, and she said vibes were sometimes the only proof a woman had that she was still alive. I deserved one night. I said it once while closing my lipstick, then I said it again in my head when Evan texted that he was downstairs. In the elevator mirror, I looked at my wedding ring and twisted it once. The band caught on the edge of my clutch. For a second, I thought about leaving it at home, not because I wanted to pretend anything, but because clubs were crowded and rings snagged on fabric. That was the practical reason, the one I liked better. I kept it on for then. At the nightclub entrance, the air was cold outside and hot every time the door opened, with bass pushing through the walls like a second heartbeat. Evan stood beside me in his dark jacket, hands in his pockets, already too serious. Adrian was near the velvet rope with Rena, a woman with a phone always ready in her hand, and two men I did not know. When he saw me, his face opened like the night had finally started. He said he was glad I came. Evan turned his head, slowly, and that was when I knew he understood this was not random. He asked if I had known Adrian would be there. Specific. Factual. Annoying in the way truth is annoying when it arrives too early. I told him everyone knew everyone might show up. He said that was not an answer. I said he was doing it again, making a normal night feel like a hearing. Maya heard enough to look at Evan with that careful face people use when they want to be kind without choosing a side. Then she asked him if he had a ride home later. I laughed because nobody had said he was leaving. Evan checked his phone, turned it face down, and said he was fine. I thought Maya was being dramatic. Or maybe she already wanted him to look like the wounded husband, so I would look like the selfish wife. Inside, the club was all blue light, glass, and bodies moving like nobody had bills or mornings. Adrian did not grab me. He did not cross a line that could be named cleanly. He simply leaned close enough that I had to tilt my face toward him when he spoke, and that alone made the room feel warmer. He asked about my work, but not in Evan's way. Evan asked what time a campaign launched and whether I had eaten. Adrian asked what made people stop scrolling. I told him attention was never about beauty alone. It was about making someone feel like looking away would cost them something. He smiled and said that explained me. It was just a vibe. Still. Mostly. Evan stood near Logan and looked like a man trying not to touch a hot pan. When I went to get water near the hallway, he followed me and asked for 1 minute. He reminded me about the launch party 2 years ago, the one where he left early because he had a headache, and I said he abandoned me in the one place I wanted him proud of me. He said he was not trying to leave me tonight. He said he was trying to stay, but he would not stand beside me while I acted single in front of strangers. I heard the word single and felt my whole body reject it. Not because it was false enough, because it was ugly enough. I told him he was turning one night into a prison sentence. He said he was asking me to see what this looked like before other people decided for us. I said he cared too much about how things looked and not enough about how dead I felt when he made every room smaller. He went quiet, and there it was again. That calm face, that phone turned down in his hand, that serious man trying to make my life behave. When I walked back to Adrian, Tessa gave me a look like I had survived something. Maya did not. Logan stopped joking. I saw all of it and still chose the easier story. If Evan could not handle one night of attention, then maybe he did not need to stay for the rest of it. The VIP area was not really VIP, just a raised corner with blue lights, low couches, and a rope that made everyone behind it feel chosen. Still, I liked it. I liked anything that separated the people being watched from the people doing the watching. Tessa slid in beside me with her drink and said I looked like the main character again. I told her it was just a vibe, but I said it while looking toward Adrian, so we both knew I wanted the vibe to keep going. Evan stood near the edge of the group with Logan holding a glass he barely touched. He was there but not in the room. That was the problem with my husband. He could stand 3 feet from me and still feel like he had already gone home. Adrian noticed it too. He leaned closer and asked if Evan always looked like he was waiting for a meeting to end. I laughed because it felt harmless, and because laughing made me feel less married for a second. Evan saw. He checked his phone, turned it face down, and looked toward the exit. I read that look perfectly, or thought I did. He was counting minutes. He was building one of his silent punishments. He was going to make me choose between being a good wife and being alive. The music got louder, and Adrian took my hand only to pull me around a passing waiter. That was all. One quick touch. Nothing anyone could accuse me of without sounding dramatic. Still, I let my hand stay near his longer than it needed to. I deserved one night where every small thing did not have to be explained like evidence. Rena lifted her phone and recorded the group singing along to some old song, and when Adrian said I looked like someone who had forgotten she was married for 5 minutes, I laughed and told him I was not single, just unsupervised. People laughed. Tessa laughed too, though it came with a little glance toward Evan. Maya did not laugh. Logan looked down at his drink. Evan heard it. Of course he heard it. He always heard the one sentence that could ruin his face. He came closer and asked if we could talk outside for a minute. Soft voice, calm eyes. Too serious, as always. I told him if this was another lecture, he could save it. He said it was not a lecture. He said he was asking me to step outside before I made the night harder to explain than it had to be. That sentence annoyed me because it sounded like he was already planning how other people would judge me. I told him nothing needed explaining. He asked if I believed that. Not loud, not cruel, just quiet enough to make it feel like he was the reasonable one and I was the woman embarrassing herself. I walked with him to the smoking patio because I wanted to prove I was not afraid of a conversation. Outside, the air smelled like cold pavement, perfume, and cigarette smoke from strangers pressed near the rail. Evan stood under the weak yellow patio light, and for a moment he looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. He said he was asking me to leave with him. He said not because he owned me, not because I was a child, but because what was happening inside was becoming public. I heard control. I heard the same old fear wearing a decent shirt. I told him his problem was not Adrian. His problem was that someone wanted me in a way he had stopped showing. He said wanting attention was not the same as handing our marriage to a room full of people. I said he made marriage sound like a locked door. He said I was acting like freedom meant making him disposable in front of witnesses. That line hit too close, so I made it ugly before it could touch me. I told him if he was going to stand around looking wounded all night, he should go home. I said he was ruining the mood, and I wanted to continue the night without his serious face hanging over me. When we came back inside, I did not soften it. I said it in front of Tessa, Maya, Logan, Adrian, and Rena. I told Evan he should go home if he could not handle one night of me being myself. The words felt cleaner with music under them, less cruel, more brave. Adrian looked away, but he did not move away from me. Tessa gave a nervous little laugh like she wanted to help the moment become funny. Maya's mouth went flat. Logan said nothing. Evan checked his phone again. One tap, then another. He turned the screen face down and nodded. He did not argue. He did not ask me twice. He said he would order one ride and make sure I had my key. That was his response to being dismissed in front of everyone. A ride, a key, a calm face. I read it as defeat, and I loved him less for giving it to me so easily. While he waited by the curb, I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My wedding ring had caught on the lining of my clutch earlier, and now it felt tight again, hot under the club lights. I took it off and placed it in the little side pocket. Practical, simple, nothing dramatic. When I came back, Evan was already outside, stepping into the rideshare alone. He looked through the window once. I lifted my drink, not like a toast exactly, but close enough. Then the car pulled away and the night opened in front of me like a door he had finally stopped blocking. After Evan left, the first thing I did was make the room comfortable again. That was what I told myself anyway. I did not want everyone standing around like they had watched something cruel. I wanted the night to keep moving. I wanted the music to swallow the awkward part and make it feel smaller. So I smiled, lifted my glass, and told them Evan needed rest because he got too serious when a room stayed loud too long. That sounded kinder than saying I had sent my husband home because he was blocking the part of the night I still wanted. Tessa laughed, but not as fast as before. Maya did not laugh at all. Logan checked the door like he was deciding whether to follow Evan, then stayed where he was because men like Logan hated choosing sides in public. Adrian stepped closer once the space beside me was empty. He asked if I was okay, and I told him I was fine, of course, because it was just a vibe and everyone had made it heavier than it needed to be. He said some people could not handle watching a woman choose her own night. That sentence went straight into the part of me that wanted permission. I deserved one night. I had said it before, but after Evan's car pulled away, it became almost official. I had chosen the night, and now I had to enjoy it loudly enough to make the choice look right. Rena held her phone up again while people moved back toward the couches. She was always recording, always catching quick clips for stories, and I barely thought about it. In my world, being recorded meant the night was worth remembering. Adrian leaned near my shoulder, not touching me in a way anyone could name, but close enough to make the camera understand what kind of scene it was. Someone asked where my husband went. I said he went home to be dramatic. Then Rena asked if I was single now, and I laughed because the question was too ridiculous to take seriously. I told her I was basically single for the night because my husband had chosen bedtime over fun. People laughed around me. A few did not. I noticed the gap and filled it with another sip. It was not betrayal. It was a joke. A joke is only dangerous when people want to punish the woman telling it. Maya came closer after that. She did not make a scene. She did not use some big moral voice. She only said sending Evan home like that had been harsh. That annoyed me more than if she had yelled, because quiet judgment always sounds cleaner. I told her she was acting married for someone who was single. She said single women still knew when something looked wrong. The words sat between us for a second. I hated how plain they were. I hated that she did not sound jealous or old-fashioned or dramatic. She sounded like someone who had seen the room shift before I did. So I made her the problem. I told her Evan had trained everyone to see his discomfort as virtue and my fun as danger. Maya's face closed after that. Not angry, just closed. She said she was going to get water and she did not come back to the couch. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Evan had texted. He asked if I was safe. That was all. No demand, no speech, no order to come home. Just those 4 words with his name above them. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. I could picture him in the back of the rideshare, phone in his hand, checking it and turning it face down the way he had all night, probably trying to look mature even alone. For 1 second, the quiet in that message felt different. Not controlling, not sulking. Tired. Maybe hurt in a way that did not know how to ask for care. Then the bass hit through the wall. Adrian said my name, and I locked the phone without answering. Evan always knew how to make his sadness look like responsibility. That did not mean I had to obey it. Tessa was near the edge of the booth watching Rena's clip on someone's phone. The blue light from the screen made her face look pale. She was not laughing. That opened a small door in my head. I saw the clip for what it might look like to someone else. Me smiling too wide. Adrian too close. My ring missing from my finger because it was still tucked inside my clutch. My husband gone. My voice saying I was basically single for the night. For one slow breath, I was not the free woman in the room. I was the wife people would talk about tomorrow. Then I closed that thought. I ordered another drink and told Tessa I deserved one night where nobody treated freedom like a crime. She nodded, but she did not repeat it back to me. Adrian asked if I wanted to go somewhere quieter, an after-hours lounge where the music was better and the crowd was less stiff. Going home then would have made Evan right, and I could not give him that. Maya left without hugging me. Logan only lifted 2 fingers when I said he was boring now. Tessa came with us, but she walked behind me instead of beside me. I stepped into the car with Adrian, my wedding ring still hidden in my clutch, and told myself the night was finally mine. The after-hours lounge was smaller than the club, which made it easier to pretend the night had become more honest instead of more dangerous. There were low red lamps on the tables, dark mirrors on the walls, and music soft enough that people had to choose what they said. That should have made me careful. Instead, it made me feel selected. The crowd was thinner, older, better dressed, the kind of place where nobody looked surprised by bad decisions because everyone had brought one with them. Adrian sat beside me, close but still careful, and Tessa took the chair across from us with her phone flat on the table. I told myself she was tired. I told myself Maya leaving without a hug meant nothing. I told myself Logan's silence was just Logan being boring. It was just a vibe still. And I deserved one night where my husband did not stand beside me like a warning sign. My ring was still in the side pocket of my clutch. I checked once with my thumb and felt the small, hard circle under the lining, safe and hidden. Hidden did not mean removed from my life. Hidden meant practical. Hidden meant I could breathe without metal catching on every movement. Adrian asked if I was always this brave, and I said I was not brave, just tired of being managed. He smiled at that, but his smile had changed since the club. At the club, he looked like a man winning attention. Here, he looked like a man checking how much the attention might cost. I ignored that because I needed him to stay exactly as I had made him in my head. Fun. Easy. Proof that I was not ordinary. My phone buzzed while Adrian ordered drinks. Evan's name appeared on the screen. For a second, I wanted the message to be angry, because anger would have made him simple. It was not angry. He wrote that the house would be ready when I got back. That was all. I stared at it, then laughed once through my nose because it sounded like him. Ready. As if even pain had to be organized before I arrived. I read it as surrender. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe the beginning of him finally understanding that pushing me only made him lose the room faster. Tessa asked what he said. I told her Evan was being dramatic in his polite way and that he had probably folded a blanket on the couch like a sad husband in a commercial. Usually she would have laughed before I finished. This time she only moved her straw around the ice. No meaningful rescue. I hated the smallness of that silence, so I made the room louder with my own voice. I texted Evan back that he had made me feel like his quiet life mattered more than my need to be alive. That was true. That was the cleanest truth I had said all night. For years, his peace had been the house rule. His tiredness decided when we left. His discomfort decided which jokes were too much. His silence decided which parts of me were allowed to make noise. Evan replied after a minute. He wrote that he knew his quiet had hurt me, but he would not be the husband I sent home so another man could finish my night. He wrote that he would handle it properly. No begging. No threat. Just a line so neat it made me angry. I told him he could either trust me or keep acting like a prison guard. I told him I deserved one night. I told him he was too serious, and that was why he always lost the room. Then I put the phone face down because I had learned that from him, and for once it felt good to be the person who ended the exchange. Adrian asked if everything was fine. I said yes, of course, because saying no would have given Evan a seat at our table. Adrian nodded, but he checked his own phone after that. Once. Twice. He laughed slower. When I touched his sleeve to pull him back into the conversation, he came back, but not all the way. I told myself he was being careful because he respected the situation. The simpler answer was that he liked me better before my husband became real. Tessa kept watching me with a face I did not want to name. So I gave her something to support. I joked that Evan was probably at home practicing his disappointed face in the hallway mirror. Tessa looked down at her glass and said nothing. One sentence would have saved me. She gave me none. Rena's clip from earlier appeared in my notifications a little after 2. She had posted the part where I laughed and said I was basically single for the night. My hair looked good. Adrian looked close. Evan was not in the frame, which made the clip feel cleaner than the real memory. I shared it to my own story and added a caption about women choosing their own fun. I knew Evan could see it. That was not an accident. It was the point I had been trying to make since the lounge, since the club, maybe since the first year I learned how lonely a safe marriage could be. I wanted him to see that I was not waiting at home to be approved. I wanted him to see that if he left the room did not close around me. It opened. Adrian offered to call me a ride instead of sharing one. I told myself that was gentlemanly. Tessa hugged me outside, but her arms were loose, already gone before they touched me. In the ride share, I fixed my lipstick in the black phone screen and pressed my thumb against the hidden ring in my clutch. I was tired, perfumed, and still certain. Evan would be home, hurt, serious, manageable, and I would walk in with the night still on my skin, knowing I had finally chosen myself. The house was not dark when I came home. That was the first thing that bothered me. Evan hated leaving lights on, but the hallway lamp was glowing, soft and yellow, like someone had prepared the entry for a guest. My key worked. The door opened. Cold air from outside followed me in, carrying club smoke, faded perfume, and the sweet drink I had spilled on my wrist. I stepped inside with my shoes in one hand and my clutch in the other, ready to make my face calm before Evan could make the night serious again. Then I saw the bags. 2 suitcases stood beside the front door, my black weekender, my makeup case, a folded coat on top, and on the largest suitcase, placed in the center like a label, was my wedding ring. Evan stood near the stairs with his phone in his hand. He checked the screen once, turned it face down on the console table and smiled. Not big, not loud, just calm. The same calm I had called sulking all night. He said Maya had texted before he even got in the rideshare. Logan had checked that he made it home. Rena's clip had already gone around before I shared it myself. Tessa had stopped replying because she had seen enough to know there was no clean version left. He said he did not need to explain why he left, because I had explained it for him in public, on video, with my own caption. I tried to say it was just a vibe. My voice came out thin. Mrs. Keller's door across the hall opened a little, and she looked at the bags, then at me, then at Evan. I said he was humiliating me. She said he looked like the one who came home. That sentence had no drama in it. That made it worse. I texted Adrian from the hallway because I needed one person to make the night still feel real. He replied that he did not do drama and wished me the best. Then my next message stayed unsent. Evan said the separation notice and move-out deadline were in the front pocket of the suitcase. I slept at Tessa's for 4 nights, then she asked me to find somewhere quieter. Our shared account access changed before the week ended. Maya stopped answering group invitations with my name in them. Adrian never appeared again. At work, people still smiled, but no one asked me to lead wedding campaigns. I still believe a woman can need more than quiet loyalty. I still believe marriage can become a room with no air. But freedom looked smaller when it needed my husband sent home like an inconvenience. The wedding ring stayed in the side pocket of the suitcase. I wanted one night without my husband in the way, and came home to a life where I was the one outside.